7th of June 1919, a day etched into Maltese history. On that day, the National Assembly of Malta was supposed to have a meeting, which was supposed to be led by Filippo Xiberras. But also on the same day, the Maltese citizens were protesting in the capital city of Valletta. They forced the Daily Malta Chronicle, which at the time was a pro-British newspaper, to close, and eventually it all got out of hand. This results in 64 British soldiers coming in to deal with the protests. This also results in 3 people killed: Wenzu Dyer, Giuseppe Baiada and Manuel Attart. The following day, however, outrage continued, and Carmelo Abela, who resisted arrests, was run through the stomach with a bayonet. He died 16 days later due to the injuries. But what caused all of this commotion? Why were the Maltese people protesting, and what led up to this event? All of these questions and more will be answered in today's video, so let's get started. In World War I, the Maltese population was well fed as the need for labour grew, since the British, who were at the time controlling Malta, were involved in the First World War. This meant that the Maltese people lived a stable life, if not prosperity, then decency. After World War I, however, Maltese people were soon being unemployed to make room for homecoming British soldiers. And this led to unemployment going up, meaning that Malta was again riddled with poverty. This was down to the government not providing food or resources to Malta at the time it needed. Also at the time, Ukraine, Malta's biggest wheat exporter, was dealing with the Russian Revolution, meaning it couldn't export any wheat to Malta. By 1919, there were already big movements for an independent Malta, and in fact the Maltese were working on a constitution. But poverty was still a big issue. The Maltese lower class, who at the time were struggling, blamed the Maltese upper class, who were in control of the production of wheat and the production of bread, which after World War I was a scarce item. The Maltese got hostile with the British and were showing signs of unrest already. As the price of bread kept going up, the Maltese began to become more and more frustrated. Unrest began to appear in smaller protests demanding for higher wages. The new Maltese National Assembly met for the first time in the winter of 1919 to form a resolution for independence from the British. On that day, however, the crowds attacked shops which were still open, but the crowd was stopped by police. The Second National Assembly meeting was scheduled for the 7th of June 1919. People also engaged in public protests against the upper class, who, as I said earlier, controlled the supply of wheat and bread. In May of 1919, university students who were in their last year of their respective courses started to make their voice heard about their final exams. This was because instead of receiving a doctorate after they graduated, they got a bachelor's, which in today's standards is 2 ranks lower. To get a doctorate now, they needed to do a thesis and two other exams, and saw this as extra work which they didn't sign up for in the original course. And also, to rub salt into the wounds, they were told at the last minute. In October of 1918, students who were in the last year of their courses tried to formally request that they would have the original rules applied for their exams to the University Council. And 1 month later, that request was rejected. The students kept appealing all year long. In fact, they even signed a petition. However, 1 month before the exam, they were rejected for good. On the 9th of May, law, medicine, and theology students announced that they will be going on strike and will not attend lectures. The students vandalized and caused chaos in the capital city of Malta, Valletta. Saturday, 10th of May, 1919. After a meeting with the rector went south and the students got nowhere, they locked the gates of the university with a chain and padlock. The rector appealed to the police to help to defuse the situation, yet nothing was done. Friday the 16th of May, 4 students are facing trial. This was because they had demonstrated and thrown eggs to those who appealed for the removal of Nerk Mitzi, who at the time wanted Malta to be an independent nation. Therefore, students in this case were Carmelo Bonnici at age 19 and from Bormla, Edward Critien, 23 and from Slima, Rosario Fernando Landon, 23 and from Valletta, and Paolo Borciolivier, 18 years old and from Valletta. These 4 students in particular were accused of throwing eggs at Francesca Azzopardi while putting passers-by in danger, disrupting order and disrupting public peace. They were officially put on trial on Friday the 23rd of May, 1919, but their fellow students didn't leave them behind either. They followed them right until they entered the court. The 4 students in this case had the most renowned lawyers in the country defending them. And on the 30th of May, 1919, they were officially free and as a result, did another demonstration. A few days before the events of the Sette Giungo unfolded, the incoming governor of Malta, Lord Palmer, was supposed to decide if the Maltese were to be allowed a more autonomous role in governing themselves. A few days beforehand as well, police had asked for soldiers to be posted in Castile, just in case of an upheaval. It's the 7th of June 1919 and the situation has taken a turn for the worst. The crowd caught sight of the Maltese flag defaced by the Union Jack flying above à la Ville de Lourdes. The angered crowd took down the flag forcibly, and now they were proceeding through Valletta, breaking windows, hurling insults at police and soldiers, removing Union Jacks, and ransacking offices belonging to the wealthy. In the afternoon of the 7th of June, military support was called in, and a mere 64 soldiers formed from composite battalions and entered police headquarters. Small groups of soldiers were being harassed by crowds who were also throwing stones and other objects. The captain of the soldiers, who had his gun stolen earlier, directed 24 soldiers to Strada Forni, where the biggest uprising was taking place at the time. Soldiers were posted along the streets, facing both directions, and were not ordered to shoot unless being directed so. The soldiers took their positions and aimed their guns at the crowd, which then retreated. When a soldier heard a shot from a house that was being ransacked, he shot in the crowd, prompting the rest of the soldiers to do the same. The officer shouted for a ceasefire. At the offices of the Daily Malta Chronicle, which at the time was a pro-British newspaper, the smell of gas was coming out of the offices, and the lieutenant ordered his troops out of the Daily Malta Chronicle offices. To clear the crowd and make way for his men to come out, the lieutenant ordered the soldiers to shoot low and away from the crowd. 1 man in this situation was killed. During the initial uprising, 3 people died and 50 more were injured. Disturbances continued into the following day, resulting in another death. These protests best reflected the economic and political life in Malta. The island had been economically run like a fortress, and political development was stifled, as it was an important fortress for the British. The day after the attack, flowers and tributes were placed in the streets where the victims had died to commemorate them. However, uprisings continued, and another mob attacked flour mills owned by Kassar Torreggiani in Marsa. Other trading houses were also raided in the outlying villages. In the end, the British didn't give the Maltese their constitution and nor left Malta. Instead, the British did the exact opposite and maintained more military presence than ever to quell another rebellion as big as the Sette Giungo.